Hello, dear students. Welcome to our last session. So today we are going to focus on a really important topic that probably you have studied before, but it's really important to record. Okay, and in this case, is the usage of passive voice. Let's go to take into account that we are going to focus on the usage of this one, but focus on urban and social context, right? So, firstly, we need to clarify what the passive voice is. So, let's go to take into account that when we are going to use the passive voice, the main intention that we are going to have is to focus on the object, okay? So, something particular is that we are going to take into account that maybe you can make emphasis on the action, maybe the result of this one. But the point is that you don't take into account, or more than take into account, you don't emphasize on the person that does the action, okay? The intention is to focus on the object, the one that is affected, okay? So, what is the common typical structure? Generally, you're going to include the object of the main clause, the to be, which is conjugated depending on the original grammar tense, and the verb in past participle. Okay? So remember that the verb in past participle are the ones that are in the third line of irregular verbs, or if the verb is regular, is the one that is going to be with ed at the end. Okay? Something important. There are moments or there are situations when the person who does the action, or here what we call the doer, is a noun. So in this case, we don't use by. Okay, I'm gonna emphasize on this one later. Okay, but the point over there is that it's not strongly necessary to mention who did the action. For instance, here you have an statement in active voice. People collect rubbish every Wednesday. So my question for you is, who are these people? Do you know who they are? So the point over there is that possibly or probably, excuse me, probably you don't. Why not? Because in this case we are generalizing. We're talking about people when we don't know exactly who they are. We don't know if, for example, that's someone from my family or if they are my students, my colleagues, my coworkers. This is a noun for us. So when we are going to change the statement to passive voice, is going to happen the following. First of all, let's go to focus on the object, okay? So what is the object over this side? Rubbish. Or in other contexts, you can call it like garbage too, okay? Remember that they could be synonyms, is more than all the kind of English that is used. And well, just having defined the object, so you are going to focus on the original grammar tense, okay? So rubbish is collected every Wednesday. If you realize over here you don't have by people because they are a noun. So if you don't know the subject who does the action, don't write it in the passive voice. Okay? So here you have just like some ideas that are contextualized, okay, using the vocabulary that we have in this unit. That as usual, I hope that you have checked. Okay? So firstly, we have the high street has been closed for repairs. Look, the next one. A new airport is being built near the capital. Pollution is caused by heavy traffic. If you realize over there, the function of the passive voice is really wide, okay? Because that's not just like something that you say, well, I'm just going to discuss the object. You can use this one for describing, for example, problems that you have in the city. You can use this one for emphasizing on a person that maybe did an action. It's possible too, even that you don't have a person in this part, it can happen. For example, it can be used for explaining or expressing ideas that maybe can provoke a change. In some cases, for example, the passive can be used with modal verbs. Okay, so the point over there is that when you have a wide varieties, okay, a wide variety of usage with those ones. Okay, for example, I can give you another idea. You can try to focus on examples with modal verbs. So I can say like some policies should be applied in the city for improving the environment. You see, some policies should be applied. Okay, so over there I'm using passive voice and my idea is right. Okay, so as I told you before, if you don't know the person, you don't use it. But if you have an agent, if you know exactly who they are or who this person is, you're gonna include by plus the agent. Okay, for example, here by the government, by engineers. Okay, so that's depending on what information is being provided in the active voice. Here you have just like some ideas using the vocabulary that we have in this unit. For example, here, okay, traffic surveys are carried out every year. What may be the meaning of carry out? Do you remember it? Maybe that are applied, that are used. What could be the meaning? I hope that you have checked that. But well, now let's go to continue with next. Public transportation is used by millions daily. Over here, there is a particularity and we have a quantity. This one can be really useful for us because even that is not really clear who the subject is, you are trying to talk about a quantity. Okay? So that's the reason why we can use by in this part. You have other ideas over design, like a penalty points are given for dangerous driving. Sorry, because I forgot to highlight the idea here in passive, but in this case the passives are given. All historic buildings are protected by law. So here you have another idea with the passive. Okay? So here you can make the contrast. How the active voice is. For example, you have the council cleans the streets. Okay, you focus on the object, the streets. The statement is in present. So you say the streets are cleaned by the council. So sorry, he was missing the council, but that's the agent that you need to include. Okay? Look, next one. Okay, they are building new houses. My object, new houses. So you say new houses are being built, but in this case, they is a noun for us. Who are they? Do we know? I guess no. Okay, so here the subject is a noun or is unclear for us. That's the reason why we don't use by. Okay, and look at this one. People will install speed cameras. So you're gonna say speed cameras will be installed. But I come back again to something that I told you before. Do we know who these people are? No, we don't know it. Okay, so the point over there is that to use by in this case is not useful. So over there you have like some ideas of the grammar changes or the grammar tenses that can change, no? So like the present and is or are, past is going to be with was were, and future with will be, the present continues with is or are being, and the present perfect has or have been plus the very past participle. Over here is more, well, really important, more thorough, to know that you need to conjugate the to be. If you manage the grammar tenses well, so this part is not difficult for you. All right? So let's go to continue. Over here, we have like some practice in this part. So as usual, guys, what we are going to do is just to set up our timer. I'm gonna give you 40 seconds and you're gonna make the contrast there, okay? You're gonna analyze the possible answers in this part, okay? Remember, for it's really important that you copy your answers because later we are going to compare, okay? And you are gonna check if your answers are well, are sorry, are well, or they need correction, okay? So firstly, rubbish collect every Wednesday. A new industrial center built last year. Penalty points give to dangerous drivers. So guys, start analyzing the answers. Don't forget to copy them in a piece of paper, please. I recommend you to take into account the time expressions, okay? Because they're gonna be a clue for you. Okay, almost done. Okay, 5 seconds left. All right, guys. Well, let's go to check your answers. So, in the first one, rubbish is collected every Wednesday. Every Wednesday is just making reference to the routine, no? So, it's in present. The next one, a new industrial center was built last year. Okay, last year, making reference to the past. And penalty points are given to dangerous drivers. This is a fact. So that's the reason why it goes in present. Okay? But well, guys, I hope that you have gotten really good results in this part. I'd like to conclude with this summary. So let's go to take into account, guys, that well, the passive generally, in this case, well, generally no, always includes this structure, verb to be, and the verb past participle. You can use it, for example, for news, reports, city life, social problems. Yeah. So all these topics are going to be involved, plus the examples that I gave you before. If, for example, you want to propose ideas or to indicate changes, laws, requirements. Okay. So the most important is that you learn to identify the context, okay, where you can use them. And don't forget that the intention but here is to focus on the action or to focus on the object, but not on the person who does the action, okay? So, guys, I guess that this is all for our first lesson of unit number 6. And well, see you soon with the next unit, okay? I wish you the best with your quiz. So, best regard, guys, and well, continue with your process.